Hello and welcome to the Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Anyekolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, relations between Nigeria and Ghana are on a knife edge after the forced closure of shops belonging to Nigerian traders in Ghana. The Nigerian government has accused Ghana of routine acts of hostility against Nigerians, including tougher residency permit requirements for Nigerians compared to what Ghanaians are subjected to. But the Ghanaians have hit back, accusing the Nigerians of unfair competition and breaking the rules. So what's become of the special relationship between the two West African countries? We have analysis from Ghana. And later, from Kingston, Jamaica, through London, England to Calabar, Nigeria. The story of one Jamaican's voluntary role in London, how it led to his first trip to Nigeria in 2007, and how he stayed on in Nigeria ever since, helping to transform the tourism industry in Cross River State and directing campaigns for blockbuster movies that have helped to turn them into the highest grossing Nigerian films of all time. Michael Williams, former managing director of the Cross River State Tourism Bureau and former head of marketing at Ebony Life Media, coming up. Now, as you might have heard on Arise News, Nigeria's Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has been visiting Accra to meet his Ghanaian counterpart, Mike Okwuaye. Relations between the two West African countries have been deteriorating, and Mr. Gbajabiamila has been keen to mediate. The main source of tension is the implementation of a law protecting Ghanaian retailers from foreign competition. Over 200 shops have been forcibly shut in Ghana, most of them belonging to Nigerians, and now Nigerian traders say they fear they have little choice but to leave the country after their businesses were sealed. Under new Ghanaian laws, foreign citizens are now required to have an investment of $1 million to trade in the country, a move many say is outrageous and extortionist. Well, in a moment we'll speak to a journalist in Ghana. But first, here's another look at a video that went viral showing the forced closure of a Nigerian shop in Ghana.
As you people can see at Accra Tiptoe Lane, we are here. This is my shop. So, and now they are still coming on to close the shop. You can see my shop since 2017. I registered my business. 2007 is here. I registered the business. I pay my taxes. I have my resident permit. Everything is here. They don't want to listen to us. You see, it's here. The certificates are here. If they are if I'm lying, the whole world can see it. This is it. This is my resident permit. Everything is here. Today they want to lock my shop, and this is what they are doing. I don't see the reason why they lock it. They are all over the places. This is the shop. I can prove it. The certificate is here. So the whole world should see this. Since 2007, I have been paying tax. I have been doing everything, renew my residence. But you can see the soldiers. Everybody is here. We are here. You are here. You say I should not do anything. You are here to take the. You are here to lock my shop. So that is what I'm showing the world. So what is the problem? That is what I want to know. Let them check my document. My document is here. They are here. They are not asking of document. What they are doing is just close the shop. You see, that is what I'm saying.
Illegally.
Yeah, I'm not. I register my business. This is the certificate. Come and check the certificate. I'm not operating illegally.
So are you
Come and check. He said $1 million US dollar. How can I provide $1 million US dollar? I have all the certificates that qualify me since 2007. So why now? Why now the police is here? Everybody is here. The whole world should see this.
Powerfully emotive scenes there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now from the Ghanaian capital, Accra, by Patrick Stephenson, a financial journalist and economic consultant with experience across several African markets. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You're on the ground in Accra, Ghana. How has it come to this?
Well, first of all, I think it was the famous Argentine, economist Raul Prebisch who argued that, we must collectively as a global community work towards ensuring that goods and people can cross borders free. And when they don't, countries must find credible solutions for dealing with them. What is currently happening between Ghana and Nigeria, I think, has been as a result of, the countries in the sub-region themselves almost disrespecting, if you like, protocols and agreements that, we collectively signed from late 60s, to the early 70s. And I'm talking specifically about the ECOWAS trade liberalization regime. We collectively acknowledge that, this is one of those things that will support trade between and among the countries. But unfortunately, I think that the local political economy considerations make it difficult for the countries to go by that. And if I have to get into the specific details of what is happening, and the video you just shown, to the viewers in Nigeria and I suspect across the world. So Ghana for a very long time, after the structural adjustment program, had a number of laws that either supposed to open up the trade, the trade sector of the economy. One such law was revised in 1992 when we effectively became, we got into the fourth Republican state. Now that law is the Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act 478. And that law, provided some sort of restrictions in terms of capital for foreigners that had to get into the Ghanaian market. Bear in mind, foreigners defined here included anybody, whether you're within ECOWAS or outside of ECOWAS. Now, that's problematic because the relationship between Ghana as a country and the European Union is not the same relationship between Ghana and ECOWAS. And I suspect it is the same for Nigeria as well. And so you realize that the phraseology of that law did not consider, the gains and supposed benefits that members within the region should get. And I think the law at the time had a minimum capital requirement for any foreigner that wanted to get into the retail sector, right? Where they define retail to mean, your ability to import goods into the country and sell them. The capital requirement there was about $10,000 if you are going to establish a joint venture with a Ghanaian, and $50,000 if you're going to own and run the retail business alone. And if we're going to get into trade specifically, what I just described, you needed a minimum of $300,000. Now that law traveled its course up until 2013 and was revised. So in the video there, you do recognize that the Nigerian whose shop was being closed argues that how is he supposed to raise $1 million when he already had compliant documents? So if somebody had $300,000, they would have been involved in trade-related activities before 2013. Now, in 2013, we revised the law into the current Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act. Now, that law is what then introduces other metrics, that citizens or the citizens of other ECOWAS countries.
Well, look, Patrick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, you've comprehensively given us a sense of the evolution of these things. I mean, law or no law, there is an ECOWAS protocol, isn't there? There are agreements on free movement of goods and free trade in the West African sub-region. Ghanaian businesses in Nigeria are not being treated the same way. And it sounds as though the imposition of the creation of this law requiring $1 million as a prerequisite for sort of doing trading in Ghana. I mean, it seems as if it's aimed at eliminating a specific group of people from doing business in Ghana.
Well, you summarize it up, absolutely, exactly what it is. It's supposed to sort of prevent foreigners, as they describe it, from actively participating in the retail sector, which is the ability to import goods and sell them. Here is the $1 million problem, which I think Ghana, Nigeria, and the entire countries within the ECOWAS sub-region must take cognizance of, because this law creates opportunities for non-ECOWAS members that may come from, say, South Africa or somewhere in Europe to rather get into the market at the disadvantage to ECOWAS citizens. So this is not just a Nigerian problem, but it is equally undermining the ability of Ghanaian entrepreneurs to partner with their colleagues in Nigeria to adequately do business here. If you permit me to give you two examples on the law. So if you're a foreigner and you are to get into this market and you need $1 million, if you're Nigeria, you probably may not be able to raise that capital in the Nigerian market. But you're coming from somewhere in Europe where you will pay maybe an interest of 2% on the dollar or 1% on the dollar. You can raise that money. You get into this market, set up a conglomerate, set up different retail outlets that are compete even against the Ghanaian businesses, and they struggle. So this is not just a Nigerian problem. What is happening now is that you have a lot of Nigerians who are savvy businessmen who do genuine business who are in this market, and somehow the rigid implementation of the law is creating difficulties. So, like
okay,
I said
let me just leap in there. Let me just jump in there, Patrick. Is there, because obviously this is affecting a lot of small businesses. I mean, you know, you don't have like multinational corporations or whatever, big Nigerian companies being particularly bothered by it. I mean, is there a proliferation of small Nigerian businesses in Ghana? I mean, like, you know, corner shops and all that sort of thing.
Well, so specifically, I think there are a number of corner shops. You know, there's a number of Nigerian businesses that you find in places like Circle, Tiptoe Lane, and some of the major retail markets. However, I think we have to look at these numbers within context. Are these numbers, you know, so significant to dislodge Ghanaian businesses? That's a fundamental question that has got to be answered. The other part of that conversation, however, is whether trade unions in Ghana have the requisite powers to go around closing Nigerian shops. I think that is stretching the law too much, because you need regulatory authorities who can walk into a marketplace and determine that, okay, this Nigerian business, for example, does not meet the minimum capital requirement. Fair enough. But you have had cases where some institutions like the trade unions have taken the law into their own hands, closing Nigeria. And I think that's not the way to go. So yes, you will find small Nigerian shops, but what we define as small, you know, within the context of the law, is just a matter of capital requirement. So you may see a Nigerian shop on the corner, like what you're currently seeing on the screen. Maybe that's just an outlet. And the volume of trade globally today suggests that it's very possible for somebody dealing, for example, in the import and sale of mobile phones, to easily have $1 million investment in that business. Very easy. It's possible. Right?
Well, let me ask you this, Patrick. Again, I apologize for interrupting you, but we're going to have to take a break shortly, so I need to get this bit in. I mean, you know, a lot of what we're hearing is anecdotal. I mean, we're seeing the videos, you're talking about trade unions and that sort of thing. What is the official Ghanaian government's position on this? Because, I mean, President Akufo-Addo has telephoned President Buhari, from what I understand, and apologized, not just for that, but for other things, you know, like the destruction of a building inside the Nigerian embassy and so on, saying he had ordered an investigation. I mean, do we know where that stands currently? And we've got less than a minute before we take a break, so do keep it brief.
Well, so the official Ghanaian position on this trade brouhaha is that, as the law currently stands, Nigerian businesses will have to comply, and they go beyond just the minimum capital requirement. They are indicating that some Nigerian businesses are not paying taxes. That's a responsibility of the tax authority to justify that they are not playing by competitive rules in the marketplace. That's, again, a rule or a law that has got to be enforced by another regulatory institution. So what the Ghanaian government did was to set up a task force that had to go around and give time for the businesses that are foreign, including Nigerian businesses, to come and justify whether they are paying taxes, whether they are operating legitimately. And I think that that time window was not taken advantage of by different actors in the marketplace. So that's what's happened, and that's the official Ghana government position. And they are currently finding some amicable solutions of dealing with it. They are still screening some of the businesses to be sure they comply. But that will not resolve the ultimate problem of the minimum capital requirement that I suspect.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, really apologize, Patrick, there, but I'm going to ask you to stay with us. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about worsening relations between Nigeria and Ghana following the forced closure of shops belonging to Nigerian traders in Ghana. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Enyegola. Now, the Nigerian government has accused Ghana of routine acts of hostility and harassment of its citizens. In a strongly worded statement, the Nigerian Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said the Nigerian government was considering a number of options aimed at resolving the situation. Mr. Mohammed said Nigeria had documented several acts of hostility towards its citizens by the Ghanaian authorities, some of which include the seizure and demolition of the Nigerian embassy property in Accra, and what Mr. Lai said was the aggressive and incessant deportation of Nigerians from Ghana. He also cited the closure of shops belonging to Nigerians, which we've been talking about, a media war against Nigerians in Ghana, and tougher residency permit requirements for Nigerians compared to what Ghanaians are subjected to. Mr. Mohammed added that a significant number of Ghanaians living in Nigeria were living in Nigeria rather, and yet they were treated better compared to what Nigerians have been going through in Ghana. Here's the Nigerian Foreign Minister Geoffrey Onyeama addressing the issue.
This is something that we are going to want looked into at this non-respect of the ECOWAS protocol. You know, what is the point of having an economic community if at the end of the day each country will just make laws and regulations that are in contradiction of that. So I think that is an issue that has to be addressed.
And that's the Nigerian Foreign Minister there, Geoffrey Onyeama. And Patrick Stephenson, a financial journalist and economic consultant with experience across several African markets, is still with me from Accra, Ghana. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. And I don't know if you heard the Nigerian Foreign Minister there, but I mean, the mood is souring seriously in Nigeria towards Ghana. There have been calls on the Nigerian government to retaliate against Ghanaian businesses in Nigeria. I mean, from your knowledge of economic affairs and businesses across West Africa, are there many Ghanaian businesses in Nigeria, or is it weighted the other way around?
I think there are Charles, there are a significant number of Ghanaian businesses that are operating in Nigeria. I mean, if you look at our own history, not too long ago, if you're about 2 decades ago, there were a lot of Ghanaians who effectively returned, and there's still a lot more that are doing business in Nigeria. When Nigeria in recent times complained about the influx of arms and things coming through the Togo border, for example, through Benin, and close the border, the land border. The volume of goods that came from Ghana that stuck behind the border tells you the volume of business that Ghanaian retailers are doing in Nigeria. So I suspect the points that the minister makes in that presentation is really a very important one, that both countries cannot choke themselves just because Ghanaians are behaving this way, we get retaliation from Nigerians. At the end of the day, the businesses and consumers are the people that will suffer.
And I mean, I'm curious, Patrick, to know sort of what the reaction is from ordinary people and regular Ghanaians to all of this, because I mean, it seems, like the government is making conciliatory noises to Nigeria, but the mood on the street appears to be more hostile. I mean, what's the kind of feedback loop that you're getting on that?
Well, Charles, so in Ghana, really, I think the conversation is the way the conversation is occurring is ostensibly driven by the power dynamics around it. So you have the Trade Union Congress that is practically leading this charge, and they are such a large constituency in an election year like 2020 for us, and so it almost comes across as if the demands they make and their public utterances and communication is what, essentially influences and drives the public conversation. However, I should say, though, that the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, have kicked against the behavior of GUTA getting directly involved in dealing with Nigerian businesses. And so what has happened of recent time, which I think is equally part of the broader conversation, is the demand for the state to get involved, which is why you're seeing those policemen and customs services who are now going around the shops. And so I think the ordinary Ghanaian is not talking so much about this, as the people that are involved in retail business that are talking about it. And the largest of that group is the Ghana Union of Traders and Association, and they are the people more involved in this. At the policy level, the Trade Committee in Parliament, I think, has taken this on seriously, and that is why I think there's a conversation between Professor Michael Kwe, who's the Speaker of our Parliament, and his colleague from Nigeria. That is currently happening, and the task force that has also been set up by the president is equally looking into it. But like I said before, it has to really be both countries, and indeed all the 15 countries in the sub-region, understanding that the arguments for trade are unilateral arguments. They are not bilateral arguments. You don't have to go and choke your citizens because somebody else is choking theirs, through trade restrictions. And it's important we put those in context.
Well, I mean, it's all jolly well for you to say that, when it's not the Ghanaians who have someone kneeling on their necks. But I mean, the problem, of course, Patrick, is that this latest row is just that, the latest in a series that appear to have badly damaged relations between the two countries. I mean, just a few months ago, a major diplomatic row erupted between Accra and Abuja after a building in the Nigerian embassy compound in Accra was demolished. Though in fairness, I mean, the Ghanaian government acted quickly and arrested the culprits, and I understand they've been charged with unlawful entry and unlawful damage. I mean, what's the background to that story?
So the background to that development is property that that property that sits on the Nigerian embassy here in Accra, and around which that there appears to be a very long-standing debate about whether proper rates have been paid for that property and whether the property needed to be there or otherwise. And I think that could have been addressed using, once again, the rules of engagement that existed in the country. And we all saw this coming. Any journalists who had been observing that knew that sort of a row existed. And I think at a point, some images were flying all over social media, with the Nigerian embassy trying to justify that, that property belonged to Nigeria. But what eventually happened, some people who, were clad in military gear, they couldn't really be identified properly, and we've had examples of that development in the country over the last few months, where unidentified people just go around, in military gear and then cause all kinds of problems. So they got on that property and ended up destroying the property, which, as you clearly acknowledge, the Ghanaian government had to swiftly get involved. But I think it's not a very healthy development, and I'm not saying this purely because I'm Ghanaian. I think that the Nigerians, being one of the largest economies on the continent, and indeed the largest within the sub-region, if they decide to retaliate on any of these trade issues we're talking about, it could practically decimate economies, not just Ghana, for example. I mean, Benin could be affected, Togo could be affected, and the other English countries within the sub-region. And so it's important that we go back to proper discussions around negotiations. In a time where we're talking about the continental free trade area and what it means, ECOWAS cannot be doing this. I mean, we have the East Africans that have tried to deploy commerce all the way to the northern part of the continent, and we have the largest market, on the continent at the moment. And so it's important that we learn our lessons and do things properly by abiding by the rules of engagement. I don't personally think, as somebody who observes and analyzes trade patterns across the world, that West Africans should be subjected to the same dictates in terms of capital restrictions.
Well, that's a good point you raised there. We're not the ones who need to be convinced. You need to be trying to convince your lot down there. But I mean, very briefly, Patrick, I mean, is there an element of revenge to all of this? Because I don't know, you may be too young to know this, but I mean, in the 1980s, I mean, Nigeria expelled over 1 million Ghanaians who had basically overrun this country, and there was a mass exodus of Ghanaians. I mean, is that still fresh in the memory of people there? We've got about 30 seconds, so keep it brief.
Well, I don't think what is currently happening is a retaliation to that. And in my earlier presentation, I did allude to that, that there was a lot of exodus of Ghanaians who were in Nigeria back home. I don't think this is a retaliation. This is just a problem with the current physiology of the law that has left a number of businesses behind. And I think a lot of Nigerian businesses are operating in that space. And so we just need to go back and revise that. And I suspect we can move forward from this.
Rick, thank you very much indeed. We appreciate the time you've given us. Patrick Stephenson is a financial journalist and economic consultant with experience across several African markets, and he was talking to me from Accra, Ghana. You're watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead, including the story of how one Jamaican's voluntary role in London led to his first trip to Nigeria in 2007 and how he stayed on in Nigeria ever since. Stay with us.